Welcome to Commander Pop Culture, a place to gather magical information with some laughs, might I add. One-shot deck, the Sorin the House of Markov list. Another subscriber asked me to build this. I originally had this idea to do a Orzhov Storm list, but ultimately I thought I would lose consistency. The reason being is I was going to take advantage of his X-Sword ability. You know, cast as many spells as I can that produces mana and or nets me cards before I flip him over into main phase 2 with his bottom ability, and then just hitting the nuke button. Push the button! -1 and I shoot people to death, where you deal damage equal to the amount of life you gain. Unfortunately, it's to one person. Let me flip it over for you. Any target. If it said all opponents, then I would have really went hard into the Storm deck. But I couldn't, so I had to do it the old-fashioned way, where I'm just trying to get large swaths of life and deal a bunch of damage. Sorin, it's like a blessing and a curse, because flipping him over is super easy, but getting him to the point where you can -1 once and shoot people to death is incredibly hard. I either could go really tall with creatures and staple lifelink on them, or I go really wide. You know what? I didn't notice this, but on the backside, Sorin still retains his X-Sword ability, so he's still actually a very viable Storm commander. Damn, that's unfortunate. I feel like that would have been a much more interesting list, going a Storm Orzhov. You don't see that every day. As disappointing as it is to learn that, it's still cool, and I could still use his X-Sword ability with the cards that I have in this list, and his -1 just means it's a lot stronger. Well, we learned something new, and maybe I'll return back to this deck and rebuild him as a Storm list, and I won't have a budget for that list. And do something really cool. But I feel like there's enough efficient things out there that nets you cards and or a ton of mana. It'll probably be creature based, because a lot of the black spells that net you mana require you to sacrifice something in play. Lamps to the cosmic slaughter! Seems ideal, but his -6 is you gain control of something, put a lifelink counter on it, and his +2 is the gain a food token. I honestly built this with only one thing in mind, and that's his -1. Clearly, I had one thing in mind if I missed that he has X-Sword on his backside. Oh, what a missed opportunity. Kind of kicking myself for that. Not that this list is bad. It's still quite strong. Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord gives all my stuff lifelink, and I ultimately decided to go wide because there are a lot of things in white that trigger and give you a token on every end step should you gain life. I'm just going to use my food tokens to do that. Ajani, this gains you a ton of life with his +1, makes his Sorin's -1 hit people like a truck. Just a big efficient body with lifelink. Real Bloodlord. He may be an uncommon and be only 14 cents, but he triggers on every end step, which is all I care about. Go out here, triggers each end step. Only I have to gain 3 life to get a 3/3 bird. He gives evasion too on attack, the birds. That's really nice. Golem says Stalker. This lets me like 1-2 punch people to death when he connects with someone on that person's end step based on the amount of life I've gained this turn. Hopefully it's a lot. He does a bunch of damage, plus Sorin's -1 do a bunch of damage. Hopefully that is enough to kill someone. Alms Collector, mess with farm decks. Skyclave Apparition is just a good removal piece. Gray Merchant for a good life loss, life gain trigger. Sunscorched Regent triggers whenever an opponent casts any spell. You gain 1 life. That adds up. People sleep on this card. I think for 50 cents, it's criminally underplayed. Morbid Opportunist draws cards every turn. Sangromancer, whenever something dies or an opponent discards a card, I gain 3 life. Death Greeter, whenever something is put into graveyard for play, I gain a life. Regna, the Redeemer. This is another one of those. I put bodies into play every end step. And I get to tutor out another card from my library that's quite threatening. Krav is here. For 1 black, you sack X creatures and draw X cards, gain X life. Does everything you want. Unfortunately, it's very mana taxing. It's 11 mana total to play the pair of them, but if I only get the white one down, that's all I really care about, because she puts the bodies in play. But Krav is just a nice bonus, and should I get either or, it's not a big deal. They're 2 halves of a very powerful coin. Valkyrie Harbinger, 4 life, put a 4/4 into play. Angelic Skirmisher, this is a way at combat I give all my stuff lifelink till end of turn. Mangara for drawing cards. Soul's Attendant for gaining life whenever a creature comes into play. There's not a lot of these, there's only 2 that triggers whenever anything comes down. Sultan and Soul Warren are those creatures. Felidar Sovereign as an alternate win condition. If you have 40 more life at upkeep, you win the game. Splendid Angel, this is like the hardest requirement. You have to gain 5 life to get the end step trigger. Divinity of Pride is just a beater. It's an 8/8 right off the bat with flying and lifelink. Veto, this is another 2-punch with your commander. Only he also has a universal lifelink activated ability for 5 mana. The Gaffer, draw me cards every end step. Rock's Faithbender to double my life gain. There's only 3 cards. There's the Boon, which I'm playing in this list, and Rocks and Alhamrit's Archive. I couldn't fit our Alhamrit's in here because it's $11. Crescent Summoner triggers in every end step with a 5/5 horse. And oddly enough, the easiest trigger, because I only need to gain 1 life for it to happen, but I get the biggest reward of a 5/5 with indestructibility. Kind of weird how that works out, right? Debt to the Deathless. This is to deal a bunch of damage, gain a bunch of life. Hopefully kill people with Sorin on the back end if I don't do it on the front end. Board wipe. That gains me a bunch of life. When Sorin slipped over, I should dodge it. Doubling your life total is pretty much a KO with Sorin. If I gain even 20 life, that's probably enough. But if I'm at 40, it's definitely a one-shot kill. And I got this one, and I have the beacon that doubles your life total. My Haymaker spells for sure. Sanguinate, each spell lose life, you gain life, you go life lost. Both this and Death of the Deathless are spell versions of Great Merchant. Toxic Deluge, because it's not budget friendly. If you don't have a copy, highly recommend you start buying it. It's only $4 and it's the best in the game. It answers a lot of the indestructibility pieces at instant speed. And now, honestly, when I'm not playing on a budget, I opt for things that phase out my board. So I could dodge Toxic Deluge specifically. And there's Clever Concealment, Teferi's Protection, and the new one that came out, Lord of the Rings, has Kicker. I don't remember what it's called. Well, Benevolent Offering, this is really fun. I choose an opponent. I'll just choose the weakest player. We each get 3 tokens in a play, and then I choose a different opponent. I could choose someone that's also weak that doesn't have a lot of creatures in play. We each gain 2 life for each creature in play. Hopefully I have enough dudes in play to take advantage of this. I should, for how many tokens I make for gaining life. A Heliod's Intervention, double my life total for X, or I could use it as an interaction with artifacts and enchantments. I do have Well of Lost Dreams for card advantage. I don't really need Champion's Helm, because my commander should flip over with ease, and they have to interact with me at instant speed anyways. Test of Endurance for winning the game in an alternative way. Angelic Accord to put in tokens. Polluted Bonds to gain life on everybody's turn. That triggers whenever they drop a land in particular. Dark Seal Mutation and neuter someone's commander. Sanguine Bond to 2-punch people to death. True Conviction, another Haymaker, creatures I control have double strike and lifelink, and Boon Reflection. And I did throw in Vault of the Archangel. I have another way of giving all my stuff lifelink. But since I don't really need this Champion's Helm, I'm going to look up some lifelink cards real quick before we go into the game. My budget's really crowded at this point. Nykthos Paragon's pretty dope. Yeah, let's throw that in here. That's actually pretty scary too. Put counters on my whole board, equal to the life I gain. That's much better.